Hello, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the virtual meeting of US user groups from Vivid and Micro Focus. I appreciate your time that you have registered for today's meeting. We will have a brilliant speaker with Jim Cooper from Micro Focus. He is showing us later on tips and tools to beat the peaks with Micro Focus LoadRunner. Yeah, we are seeing that a few more attendees are just logging in. So I would say we will start with the presentation within 1 or 2 minutes, so to give everyone enough time to be settled. Okay, so once again, welcome to today's virtual meeting of the whole US user groups from Vivid. Today we will hear a little bit more about how to get and how to beat the peaks with Micro Focus LoadRunner. We are still 6 weeks away from Black Friday, and I think this is an interesting topic. We are getting more to know from the really expert legend Jim Cooper. So let's start. So tips and tools to beat the peaks with Micro Focus LoadRunner. Be ready for anything, anytime, anywhere. I think it's even more important that you will get best prepared for not only Black Friday, because we know every day could be a Black Friday, and online shopping and online access is more important than ever. So this webinar and meeting is sponsored by Micro Focus, and it's presented by Vivid. We are the worldwide user community of Micro Focus. It's presented and made for all the user groups here in North America. I hope you already know Vivid a little bit more. In case you will be interested to become a new member, or you would like to get more information about the community, take a look here for more information at our website. Yeah, so what do we have in our today's meeting? So we will have a speaker. It's Jim Cooper. For those who don't know him, I can present a little bit and tell you a bit more about his biography. He's the senior solution architect of Micro Focus. He's a computer industry veteran of over 35 years, and he has held various technology roles. And his career started as a QA analyst, and Jim joined Mercury Interactive. I guess a lot of you know this company in 1996, and he has been working with the LoadRunner product family since its introduction that year. So we can say there would be probably no one who knows this product better than you, Jim. And currently, Jim is a senior solutions architect serving as a centralized performance engineer resource for Micro Focus pre-sales organization, supporting the LoadRunner family. So yeah, welcome and nice to have you here to get a little bit more explained your best tips and tricks.
Thank you.
So something to my person, normally, I guess my colleague Terry Cerrello, she's the liaison for North America with user groups. Today, she couldn't make this a user meeting being moderated by her. So I'm the counterpart of Terry for EMEA and APJ. So I've been with Vivid for more than 2 years, and I have a long history, not within the HPE micro focus side, but within the Novell environment. I've been working for more than 17 years for Novell. So I have a little bit product knowledge, but maybe more from another side than you, Jim, as you have been so long time working with the LoadRunner family. Later on, we have Sharon Levin. He is the product manager for LoadRunner Cloud. He is handling together with me and you, Jim, the Q&A session and wrap-up session. So we have 2 experts here, and you can ask them after the presentation anything. And I think, yeah, use the chance, get your questions done, and put it later in the question pane. And yeah, you will get answers of all your questions. So this is something from a housekeeping point, how to use it. At the moment, everyone is muted. So in case that you will have questions you would like to get being answered in the Q&A session, you have 2 options. You can type it in the question box, and yeah, we will then answer it later on at the 15 minutes Q&A session at the end. Or during the Q&A session, there is a function where you can say raise your hand, and then we will unmute you and you can directly voice your question out to the 2 experts. But later on, I will explain it when we are there in the Q&A session. The presentation is being recorded and will be provided within the next 40 hours, and we will send it automatically to you. Before we start, there is one more thing. Micro Focus is giving away a 100 menu gift card, and just to let you know, to qualify for the raffle, you have to fill in the short survey after the closing of today's session. That will be popped up directly. And please be aware that you only can put in and get the chance to get into the raffle with typing in your valid business email address. And as well, you need to reside in the United States or in Canada. Yeah, and now I would say I hand it over to you, Jim. It's your part. Try and now show us your best tips and tools you can present from the Micro Focus LoadRunner Cloud product family.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. Hopefully my screen is showing now at this point.
Yeah, we can see you. We can see everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So as thank you, Iris. And as Iris mentioned, we're looking today at tips and tools to beat the peaks with Micro Focus LoadRunner Cloud. She said with Black Friday coming up, that's always on everyone's mind at this time of year. And we're going to talk a little bit about the different types of peaks that can occur and how we can get ready for those and test for those. When it comes to planning for peak traffic, generally, all businesses or organizations more or less have a handle on what their year or their quarter is going to look like, and they know when their expected peak events are happening. Right? Some of them are common peak events like Black Friday that we're talked about, and even Cyber Monday, which follows close on that here in the U.S. And sometimes it's just the holiday season that they need to get ready for, for the retail online business. Peak events can also be driven by additional sales promotions on an irregular basis. And for instance, if there's a ticket selling service, then any musical or sporting event can be considered a peak event, because when the tickets go on sale at 10 o'clock on Saturday, there's always a mad rush for those. But you also want to not forget the daily peak events, so things that happen on a regular basis. Every day, people come in at the beginning of the workday, log into the work systems, and now in the times of the working at home during the pandemic, a large number of people coming in from outside the office into the office environment, and that puts additional stress on the systems. So all of these are known and expected events, and should of course be tested for, and many people do and many people don't. But what happens when the unexpected occurs? What about the types of peaks that just suddenly happen? What if some high-profile influencer takes a liking to your brand and recommends it to their 100,000 followers? Or if your business gets a blog post that suddenly goes viral, that can start driving unexpected amounts of traffic to your site. We also have scenarios where you can run into infrastructure problems. Maybe an important piece of hardware goes down in your data center, and that can start slowing response times and backing up user requests. Also, and many people would like this, what if your main competitor's site goes down and all of a sudden their customers start flocking to your site for your service or products? So have you tested for these scenarios, and can you say that you're ready for these? Because basically any day could be Black Friday. Any day can bring that once in a lifetime moment when an unexpected event creates a rush of mobile app and web browser traffic to your site. Probably people on this call were part of the PlayStation 5 rush when that came out. It sold out in minutes. Maybe your favorite retailer's site was available and you were able to get one. Maybe your favorite retailer's site was not available and you weren't able to get one. So basically, any day can be Black Friday based on the conditions that are occurring at the time. So what's at stake when peak events like this happen? So clearly one of the most important things at stake is revenue loss. So online purchasing continues to grow. As you can see, 22% year over year from last year to the year before. And in 2020, 5% of total online revenue for the year was spent on Black Friday alone. That amounts to about $10 per minute, because Black Friday and similar events occur only for a limited time. And that ensures maximum traffic is going to occur at your site within that time window. Your site will experience more new users at that time than any other time. And then what's going to happen if they have a bad experience? Here's some additional cost figures in terms of what it can cost to have poor performance. But what I find interesting on this page are statistics on the user behavior. 57% won't recommend a business if the mobile app access is poor. 85% expect better performance from their mobile app than from their desktop application. And customers are quick to abandon websites. That was a 4-second wait you just experienced. And that's how long 61% of customers will wait for an app to start before they abandon it. And 57% will abandon a site if it doesn't load in just 3 seconds, even less time than we just waited there. App reviews and social media buzz are what companies are having to pay attention to these days. And the faster they can answer bad reviews, the better off they are. Let's take a look at what some companies are doing to better respond to customer feedback. In the last decade or so, software development practices have shifted from waterfall to agile and DevOps. Part of the reason this adoption has occurred is because, as we just saw in the previous slide, customers are more demanding these days. They expect more, and they expect it to be delivered faster. Applications need to be able to be released at a pace that meets the demands of the customer. In Agile, early customer feedback is used to adjust priorities in the development backlog, which is aimed to align with market needs and ultimately increase customer satisfaction. One of the main business risks in application development is waste, meaning waste of time or waste of resources. And by accepting early feedback and ongoing assessments of the application and requirements, we're reducing these risks. Testing early and often means not having to wait until issues are found in production. This eliminates the game of telephone tag involved when trying to resolve issues found in production, by the production team communicating back to the QA team, the QA back to the developer. With Agile and Agile testing, the person who identifies the issue is now the same person who can fix it. This shortens the responsibility chain and speeds application development and release. So the faster you can turn around your applications to address the negative feedback that you're getting from reviews, then the faster you get your reviews improved and the more customers you can attract. But performance testing is lagged behind in this agile shift left movement. So even though functional testing for the most part has adapted to agile, performance testing is still pretty much waterfall. Applications still get thrown over the wall at the last minute for performance testing, and performance engineers can't keep up with the Scrum team pace. So how can we change this? We change it by teaming up. In the agile world, everyone is now responsible for quality. Teams are required to shift left performance testing and get the developers and dev testers invested in performance engineering earlier. This provides the early feedback that we look for during development and allows us to deliver faster, with less risk, and with higher quality. Bringing the team closer allows us to cope with the needs of Agile and DevOps methodologies. It does require adapting the skills and expertise of each member to fit the new standard. So let's see how that works. Shifting performance testing left is the beginning, but in order to align with the Agile and DevOps methodologies, we need to elevate performance testing to performance engineering. Performance testing is as simple as it sounds. You run tests to assess the performance of the piece of the software that one is responsible for. You create a piece of software, you test the performance of it. Performance engineering means that performance should be taken into account as early as possible and measured throughout the process. So you've got multiple people doing those performance tests. And then starting with the requirements reflected in the definition of done, tests are created during development phase and are executed as part of the pipeline. In this case, the responsibility of the performance engineer is to focus on overseeing the overall performance of the application and making use and reusing the assets that are created by the Scrum teams earlier in the process. So instead of having the testing all at the end, you have testing throughout the process. You have reusable assets that get created, and the performance engineer puts those together in a way that makes sense to do the overall performance level testing of the application. I think we've all seen this graph showing that the later in the development cycle and even into production that a performance bug is caught, the more expensive it is to fix it. Adopting performance engineering and introducing performance testing during the actual development, where developers test both manually and automatically by triggering tests during build cycles, will solve a lot of the issues in the long run. It forces testing to occur earlier and more often. With shift left performance testing, developers are frequently setting up and running quick tests using open source tools, or even on the fly creating scripts from browser HAR files. So it's important to be able to reuse these scripts throughout the performance engineering process. Proper peak tests need to be executed a number of times, and there has to be a number of days between them so that any findings can be corrected. Also keep in mind that fixing one issue might lead to another issue. So there might be a cascade of issues discovered during testing and fixing cycles. So you can't expect to simply run a big test and fix all the performance issues in one go. Performance engineering ensures testing at incremental places in the development process. Create the code, test the code, find the problem, fix the problem. You don't wait till the end and throw it over the wall. When it comes to testing in the run-up to your expected peak events, you'll need to start well in advance, and making performance engineering part of your development cycle ensures that testing starts from the very beginning of code development. So let's see how the micro-focused LoadRunner solutions enable the adoption of performance engineering in your organization. So we talk about shift left, what's needed from the tool perspective. To implement performance engineering, what does the testing tool need to provide to support that shift left testing? Developers don't want to have to leave their preferred IDE to perform outside tasks. Believe me, from the many years I've been in software QA, this is a common theme. Developers just want to remain in their development environments. So it's necessary to provide testing capability within the IDE, because that's key to developer adoption. And this applies not only to test creation, but preliminary test execution as well. So running small scale tests from the IDE is also desirable. While developed inside the IDE, coded test scripts should be reusable by the performance engineer for extended testing outside the IDE. So these tests shouldn't exist just within the IDE, just within the development environment, but they need to be portable and exportable so that they can be used by performance engineers. This allows efficient leveraging of existing test assets later in the testing process. And lastly, the test should be able to be executed without user intervention. It's imperative that testing tool be integrated and executed from the major CI software applications in the marketplace. So with these in mind, Micro Focus has created LoadRunner Developer. It's a modern, lightweight tool for developers and dev testers to shift left performance testing. Users can script, model scenarios, run tests, and quickly analyze the results without leaving the familiar developer ecosystem, leveraging the seamless integration with any IDE and CI tool. Users can run performance scripts and tests locally, as well as reuse those assets in LoadRunner Cloud, and in fact, all the other LoadRunner family solutions to do end-to-end testing. The benefits of shift-left testing performance don't happen overnight. Outside of the cultural challenges, the move also forces developers to learn new practices and technologies. That's why, to streamline the adoption within the development community, LoadRunner Developer was designed with a developer mindset. So it doesn't matter what IDE they're using, LoadRunner Developer can be incorporated into that IDE. And it'll work with popular CI tools, and it works across operating systems. So developers can script and execute load tests as part of the continuous testing process. Tests can run in single or load mode on the local developer's machine. So I can create my code, I can run it a single time, I can run multiple instances of that on my local desktop and start looking for performance issues immediately. And analysis of results can be done in a simple log file or in a SQLite database format, or can be streamed out to InfluxDB, where it can be viewed with tools like Grafana. So a lot of flexibility with the different environments here, the different operating systems, the different CI tools, and different third-party solutions like InfluxDB and Grafana, which is makes it very acceptable to the developer community. And simply shifting left might generate some improvements, but really significant gains come from a collaborative and shared approach. And that's the true benefit when using LoadRunner Developer in conjunction with LoadRunner Cloud. So LoadRunner Developer lets you speed up test execution by creating and sharing assets into LoadRunner Cloud. So they use the same technology. There's no need to do the same work twice. LoadRunner Developer helps understand how all parts of the system work together versus evaluating the isolated results. So you got multiple developers doing individual tests, and you can bring those together in LoadRunner Cloud to run those tests overall against the application. LoadRunner Developer helps scale within the existing developer tools, as we mentioned, run single tests or multiple load tests inside your own environment, and also supports performance engineering by allowing performance testing to shift left. So in conjunction with that, we have LoadRunner Cloud, and this is where you're really going to be able to scale to the peak load testing that you want to be able to do for things like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or other scheduled peak times of the year. LoadRunner Cloud is ideal for fast-moving Agile and DevOps teams. So once you've started putting LoadRunner Developer in, LoadRunner Cloud fits right in with that for those times when you need to boost to extra scale. It offers extreme scale and flexibility for the biggest loads, and you don't have to worry about the hardware needed to execute the test. We'll talk more about that. So in LoadRunner Cloud, it's easy to design, create, and run tests. It allows you to leverage existing LoadRunner Professional and LoadRunner Enterprise scripts. So if you created scripts using VueGen, TrueClient, or DevWeb, then you can immediately reuse those inside of LoadRunner Cloud. And if you're using third-party applications like JMeter, Gatling, or Selenium, then you can also easily integrate those into the LoadRunner Cloud environment for your peak testing. LoadRunner Cloud offers 3 unique ways to create load tests without scripting. You can pull in a REST API to be tested. You can create a CSV file that contains a list of REST API calls that you want to put into a test, or you can capture a HAR file through the browser and bring that in with the relevant HTTP traffic. LoadRunner Cloud has a rich selection of third-party tools to integrate with, as we mentioned, from CI servers, APM tools, and SCM tools like Git. And these integrations provide great flexibility and allow agile testing and development teams to run performance tests as part of their builds in an easy, automated manner. Also, LoadRunner Cloud has no test concurrency limit. So multiple tests can be executed simultaneously using CI tools or real users, or a mix of CI tools and real users. There's no bottlenecks in terms of access to the solution. So this is really the key to the peak testing capabilities is LoadRunner Cloud, and it can scale really basically to huge. We've run over 5 million virtual user in load tests, and as mentioned, we support unlimited concurrent test executions. So I think 5 million should be able to handle most of the load that people need to handle out there. The Elastic Cloud self-provisioning test lab provided by LoadRunner Cloud automatically creates on-demand dozens or hundreds of load generators within a few minutes in over 35 cloud regions around the world. Or you can combine those with your own private cloud or on-premises load generators, or any combination thereof. And with a flexible virtual user hour licensing model, you aren't locked into unnecessary capacity and can easily scale up and down for always there testing or for your peak seasonal testing. So while it's really good for the peak testing, it's also usable on a regular basis. The analysis is an important part of the peak testing, looking for when the bottlenecks are occurring, why they're occurring. So LoadRunner Cloud uses predictive analytics to help you understand anomalies and problems in real time. So an anomaly you can think of as you see this graph here is going along, things are happening at a certain rate. All of a sudden, the rate jumps up. LoadRunner Cloud automatically keeps track of the historic rate and then will flag to you an anomaly when it gets outside the range of that historic rate. And this is stuff that happens real time. So as you're running the test, you can start looking and making adjustments to the environment to see if it's environmental, and start bringing things back into range. Real benefit in terms of the live viewing of the analytics while testing. So with the benefit of these intuitive analytics, users can easily interpret the test results to identify performance profile of the application to determine mitigation options. These extensive real-time analytics also provide reporting capabilities, and you can integrate them with analytics tools like Dynatrace, AppDynamics, Microsoft Application Insights, and New Relic to get application metrics incorporated into the graphs that we're looking at here. And you can measure hundreds of metrics in each test run. During the testing process, LoadRunner Cloud captures valuable metrics on how the application behaves under different virtual user loads, allows users to compare multiple metrics, and also from the same or old test runs, and also compare existing test runs to a benchmark test run. LoadRunner Cloud also lets you compare SLA goals, surface level agreement goals, against performance-related data that was gathered and stored during the course of the run, and determines whether that SLA was met or exceeded. We'll see a little more about this later on. So that's LoadRunner Developer, LoadRunner Cloud. So looking at peak event challenges, we'll take just a quick overview here of how LoadRunner Cloud can help solve these peak testing challenges. Many organizations, if they want to run a full-blown peak test, will meet several challenges. The first of which can be the lack of hardware. That can be a limiting factor. They just don't have enough machines to act as the load generators to generate the amount of users to stress their system. So this can be solved by utilizing the LoadRunner Cloud environment, using AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform to easily create infrastructure and reduce maintenance costs. The next thing is that testing resources often are restricted to your local environment. That's where you have your load generators, all your test environment. But in the real world, customers may be coming from anywhere around the globe. And again, from the LoadRunner Cloud, the AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform load generators, those can be selected from around 35 cloud regions around the globe. And again, dynamically allocated in order to reach the peak testing numbers that you want to be able to reach. What about different network speeds? Your customers are coming from a wide range of networks. They're coming from mobile. They're coming across different types of mobile connections. They're coming across WANs. All of those have their own latencies, speed, and quality. So with built-in network emulation inside of LoadRunner Cloud, you can drive loads that are correctly emulating these different networks using this integrated network emulation in LoadRunner Cloud. And then lastly, licensing. Most customers are not going to buy enough licenses to reach their peak testing, right? It's just not practical. Licenses cost money. Typically, you don't test to 50,000, 100,000 virtual users. Your normal testing may take you to 5,000. So there's no sense in buying additional licenses. But what we provide with LoadRunner Cloud is a flexible virtual user hour licensing that allows you to pay for what's needed when you run your large peak test. You figure out how long you're going to run your test, how many virtual users you need during that time, how many times you're going to run it. Creates a virtual user hour collection, and then you can draw that down as you do your peak testing over and over again. So these are some of the main peak testing event challenges, and the LoadRunner Cloud, as you can see, has a lot of built-in capabilities to help handle those. So let's take a look at the LoadRunner Cloud UI. We talked a lot about what's in there. So let's take a look at the LoadRunner Cloud UI and see how we can set up a peak performance test. Grab my laser pointer here. So this is the main LoadRunner Cloud UI and the starting point when you log into the LoadRunner Cloud application. You see over here a quick start section. And this is where you can quickly create test scripts from REST, CSV, or HAR files that we talked about earlier. This is where you can do that. And then for creating our test, we're going to click on the create a test area here and move into the load test area. And when we add a test, we need to define the configuration, and there's a number of options that you can consider. We'll have a couple pages here. We won't go through all of them, but some of the main ones. Obviously, you can give it a meaningful test name. You can give it a description so that other people who need to come in and do testing will know what this test does. Emailing a report is something that can be very helpful. You can put in, if you check this, the person who's running the test logged in as that user will automatically get an email of the report, and you can add additional emails. So if there's a group of people that need the results, they can be emailed when the test concludes. The license mode, we talked a little bit about the license mode, the virtual users, a set number. I may buy 5,000 virtual users and test, allows me to test up to that amount any number of times that I want. Or I can go to the virtual user hours, which is like a debit card. I have so many hours, and as I run tests, I burn down those hours. But there's much more economical way to do peak load testing. And you can actually mix virtual users and virtual user hours in a test. So the test is being created here as a duration-based test, but there are other ways that you can have the test run. You can run based on number of iterations for scripts. And then there's also goal-oriented, which can be helpful. Goal-oriented, you can say, I want to run until I hit this certain number of virtual users, or I get a certain number of hits per second, or I reach a certain throughput. We're setting up a duration test here. You also see the pause scheduling button. And pause scheduling can be set up to 60 minutes, and it allows you, during the test run, you can make regular pauses to check that the AUT is in a stable state. So we talked about looking at the real-time results in the graphs that we were looking at earlier. So we can start watching things, and if we need to, we can pause, we can let things settle down, we can actually make changes to the environment if we needed to, and then start the test up again. There's also the delayed start. Delayed start can be helpful if you have a lot of different people who need to be involved from a lot of different locations. So LoadRunner Cloud is accessible through the browser, so people can come in from any location. So you can have multiple people, you can have database people, network people, you can have application people, all sorts of people who can connect in and watch the test as it runs. So you can set a delayed start for a test to make sure that you get everybody together before the test starts off. This is also helpful if the resources are going to be available at a certain time. You can set this up so that there'll be a delay. You can have everything set and ready to go, and when the resources are available, the test will start. So those are some of the main configuration type of details that can help you setting up a peak performance test. So now we move into the actual creation of the test itself. So in the this is where we add scripts. Scripts can be added from the asset area. Assets contain a section that hold all of the scripts. And we've added 4 scripts here. You simply click plus, check them off from the assets area, and they get added to the test that we're creating. And these can be, LoadRunner Developer, VUGen, Gatling, JMeter scripts, etc. And these are 4 different scripts representing business processes that we want to hone in on for the testing that we're doing. So we have a browsing script that just randomly browses through the customer site. That's what a lot of customers do. There's a search script that picks search strings from a parameter file and uses those to do searches. And we have a buy script, right? So from a peak performance, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the buy is what we're really interested in. We want to make sure people can execute a buy and get our products. And finally, we have a promotion script, which is similar to the buy script, but only shops for specific 1 or 2 items, right? So here's the loss leader is that we bring people to the site, they get there, they start searching around, and they buy additional items. So we've set up the number of virtual users here, and you can see 2,000 browsing, 1,250 searching, 1,000 buying, and 750 going through promotions. And we've allocated those to the different load generators in the cloud. So we're using the cloud load generators, which means those will automatically be provisioned for us. We don't need to worry about, do we have enough to do that? LoadRunner Cloud figures that up for us. And for ramp up, we're doing a ramp up over a full hour. And when you're doing really large performance tests, you want a long ramp up time because you want to be able to watch and look and see if any bottlenecks are already starting to occur as the scripts are starting to ramp up. The duration is 2 hours for this one. So again, we want to be able to run this over a period of time. Sometimes bottlenecks don't occur until the system has been under stress for a bit of time. So you have the ability to set the duration for how long you want to run your test. And ramp down or tear down is also done over an hour. Similarly, we want to be able to see if we've seen things kind of getting wonky during the test. As it ramps down, we want to see if there's a certain point at which they will start stabilizing again. So that's really the way that we can set up the scripts, how they're going to run, how the test itself is going to run, quantities, etc. So next we move over to the monitors area, and we can again create monitors or add monitors from assets. If we create monitors, these are the different types of monitors. We mentioned them before: New Relic, Dynatrace, App Dynamics, Application Insights, of course, Site Scope on premises. So we can select and add those different monitors that will give us deeper metrics that will be incorporated into the analysis data that we look at when the test runs and after the test is over. So next we look at the distribution. So this is where we want these cloud load generators to be distributed. And we've selected London and Paris here, but we could select from, again, any of the 35 plus regions, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform. Select multiple of these. The ones that we select, simply click on OK, and that's what will get added to our distribution list. And then in the distribution, we're going to assign a certain percentage to each of the different locations. This is the network virtualization that we talked about over here on this side, and we can select what network emulations we want, up to 5 for a load test. And if these are some built-in ones, and we also give you the ability to create your own emulations. So there's a way to do that, and then you can have your own defined and select those. So we selected these 5, and we've assigned in London 50% to WAN typical, 50% to mobile typical, and in Paris 50% to mobile typical and 50% to mobile busy. Then the last area we're going to look at is the SLA. This is where we set up our service level agreements. So for every transaction in our script, and a transaction in the script is just a timer around a set of functions. So going to the home page, right? We've got home page down here. The navigate, we talked about navigating through. So we start a timer, we go through the navigation, and then we stop the navigation, we stop the timer. So that's called a transaction. And by default, it just plugs in some numbers here, usually around 3 seconds. We can enable or disable a particular SLA to be measured. We actually tell the script to stop if it is exceeded for that time frame for that SLA. And then we can also have some different abilities here to set failed transaction percentiles and enable those if we so wish. What it doesn't show here, and what's really nice, as you run the tests, it'll fill in this column the actual measured times. So while you might start out with 3 seconds here, you may find that the actual measured time is consistently hitting 4 seconds. And then, so you might need to adjust your SLA, go back to the business and say, hey, 4 seconds is the best we can do based on the environment that we have. So the SLAs can be really important in terms of the measuring of how well the application is performing. Remember, think back to the user behaviors that we looked at on that one slide, that 4 seconds That's how long users are going to wait before they would abandon a mobile app. So these can be really critical in successful peak performance testing. Once all that is set up, then it's just time to run the test. So we click on Run Test, and the environment starts initializing. There's a control environment that gets set up that basically takes care of executing the test. The users get provisioned out to the load generators, and the test kicks off. So that's how we can set up a test inside of LoadRunner Cloud. So now let's take a look at everything that we've just talked about and how does that translate into peak testing best practices. So here's a list of best practices for creating peak traffic testing. So first, don't leave testing late. You want to start your testing well in advance of your expected peaks. And you want to make performance engineering an integral part of the testing process, because we talked about how this allows for multiple cycles of not only running the tests, but also time in between to fix any performance deficiencies. And we saw how LoadRunner Developer allows you to shift left performance testing. It can be used in conjunction with LoadRunner Cloud to enable testing throughout the development cycle. Next, you need to decide what you need. What user load do you need to test to? What test infrastructure do you need to meet your testing goals? Can you test from the cloud? Will you need on-premises load generators to test your application? Will you need both? So LoadRunner Cloud has automatic infrastructure provisioning to meet the needs of your peak performance testing demands by provisioning those load generators in the cloud around the globe. It also can work in conjunction with on-premises load generators if you also need that capability during your test. Next, test on what you know. While testing on your production environment might be considered unrealistic by some, it is often the only way to test on what you know and ensure that it will enable you to handle the peak loads expected. It's the real environment the customers will be hitting. And we do have customers that do this, and they typically do it in maintenance windows. Production systems, there's usually some scheduled maintenance windows, and testing teams have been able to get in there and be able to take advantage of the maintenance window, load some test data into the environment, and run some large-scale tests against the production environment to get the true picture of how that environment's going to handle the peak load. And because LoadRunner Cloud is a SaaS offering, it's going to be available regardless of when that maintenance window occurs, regardless of the time zone that it's in, and regardless of when the time zone that the testers may need to be in. The next thing is to prioritize to maximize your testing. And when it comes to testing, you're never going to be able to test everything. So, and you're going to have limited time anyway for testing. So you have to be able to prioritize to maximize your testing effort. And the 80-20 rule can be helpful here, meaning that 80% of the load on the application normally comes from 20% of the business flows. So you want to make sure to identify those user flows and test those, but also be aware of and test any new processes or flows that have been added to the new release. So LoadRunner Developer and LoadRunner Cloud together enable you to create the tests that you need to ensure that the new features, which come from the tests the developers are creating, and the common business processes, which can be created using HAR files, API calls, etc., that these are fully tested before the release. Next is to monitor the performance. This is very important. You want to monitor performance, not just when you're testing, but constantly. You want to monitor it in production as well. And it's important to monitor the performance of all parts of the infrastructure. And this is where we allow the integration into the different monitoring solutions, because you want your SMEs to be able to track down bottlenecks that are discovered during testing, have as much depth of information as possible so that they can pinpoint what the issues are. And likewise, production systems need to be constantly monitored to surface upcoming issues. You can do proactive monitoring in a production environment to see potential issues before the customer gets impacted. And we support this in LoadRunner Cloud through the popular monitoring programs like Dynatrace, AppDynamics, New Relic, SiteScope, bringing those metrics into the context of the load test. Lastly, be realistic. Be realistic with your testing. If your expected peak includes 10,000 users, you need to test with similar or preferably slightly bigger loads. Remember back to our slide earlier, year-over-year growth for online purchasing was 22%. So if you had 10,000 users last year and you only tested 10,000 users this year, and there's another 20% growth in online users, then you haven't tested to your peak load. So you want to make sure you estimate your peak load and test to over that to ensure that you're actually going to be able to meet that expected peak load. We've seen customers trying to save money or time by testing with smaller loads and extrapolating the results. And quite frankly, that just doesn't work out. Performance bottlenecks aren't linear, so you can only find them by testing to the actual load that you need to that you expect and need to test to. And LoadRunner Cloud can scale to over 5 million virtual users, so we're pretty confident we can handle the load that you need to be able to test to test your systems. So those are some best practices for peak testing around performance testing. And lastly, so it's just summary, just some bullet points here. Key takeaways: you want to implement performance engineering by aligning performance testing to your development process. This lets you overcome obstacles in obtaining your best peak performance testing results. This is the shift left performance testing to adopt a performance engineering approach. You can achieve performance engineering throughout the software development lifecycle by using LoadRunner Developer to align performance tests to your development processes, starting early as possible by giving developers performance testing capabilities within their own IDE, OS, and CI environments. Start early, testing often, and you're making the test team responsible for performance of the application altogether by shifting performance testing to the left and not just leaving it to the performance engineer at the end. Peak performance testing goals can be achieved with LoadRunner Cloud by its ability to dynamically generate on-demand, large-scale performance tests, its ability to reuse tests from across the development organization to speed the testing process, its ability to integrate with CI systems to automate large-scale performance testing as part of the build process, and also the way it collects and analyzes accurate data on your application's performance and presents that in the analysis component. So if you're itching to get started, you can download LoadRunner Developer now. There's a link in this deck which you'll be able to get. If you can't wait till you get the deck, just pick your search engine of choice, enter Micro Focus, 2 words, enter Marketplace, and you'll see a link to the Micro Focus Marketplace. Click on App Delivery, and you can download LoadRunner Developer for free. Immediately incorporate that into your IDE of choice and start creating scripts. And there's a set of example scripts in there to help get you started. So after you've done that, you can also request a trial of LoadRunner Cloud, so you can start seeing some of the capabilities that we've talked about today. And at this point, we'll go ahead and take questions.
Yes, thank you, Jim, for the great presentation. I know we have now Sharon Levin, the product manager, also here. Sharon, I hope you can also welcome the attendees, and you are now able to handle, together with Jim, the Q&A session. So if someone has directly questions he would like to ask, like I said, you can raise your hand and we can unmute you, or you can type it into the question panel as well. So So in case, I think it's, I can see we will have some questions already coming in, Jim, during you were presenting, and maybe we can start that I will ask you what here someone was typing in during your presentation. So there was one question coming up as, can I execute functional scripts like Selenium?
Okay, yes, absolutely. LoadRunner Cloud fully supports the execution of Selenium scripts as performance testing scripts. So if you're already using Selenium, those tests can be incorporated directly into LoadRunner Cloud, along with any other scripts that you might create using any of the other supported environments, such as VUGen, JMeter, etc.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. And then I saw we have here a question coming in from someone. I'm not sure what he is really asking for, Mr. Sudhashan Sit. I'm not sure if I pronounce it right. I can unmute you in case that you would like to ask your question directly. Not sure if he's, so maybe you can raise your hand and then it's easier. Okay. So I will unmute you now, and so that you can hopefully now it's. You should be able now to talk. No. Hello.
I think Iris was asking about the cloud
LoadRunner Cloud.
About the cloud host metric.
Says he's still in mute.
Jim, are you able to see the question that I think is asking about the cloud host metrics?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what.
Can you hear me, Jim? This is Sharon.
Yes, hey Sharon. Hey Sharon.
Hello.
Maybe you have a better idea what he's asking there. Go ahead.
Possibly, yes. So if you're referring to cloud load generators, if you're using them in the test, then you are able to see in the LoadRunner Cloud dashboard in real time some metrics about the LoadRunner Cloud machine, like what is the CPU and memory usage. So this is available while you are running your test and offline. In case these are the metrics that you were looking, if it's about the cloud load generators, then yes, it's available. If it's something else, you're more than welcome to elaborate on your question.
Great, thank you, Sharon. Okay, do we have any other questions coming in?
So I don't see any hand raise, but we have here another question which was asked before. It is regarding network. If you have a network, want to set up, that I want to set up a profile for how do I know what characteristics to set? So it's
Okay. Yeah, I think when we were talking about the network emulation, I mentioned that you have the ability to generate your own profiles. I think this question is probably related to that. How do I know what profile to set up? There are utilities that you can install on desktops and mobile phones that will capture the information that you need to configure a profile. So that's typically the way that people do that.
Okay, then there was another question regarding can LoadRunner Cloud be installed on my company's cloud provider platform?
So LoadRunner Cloud itself, no. The LoadRunner Cloud application is hosted in Micro Focus SaaS, which is in AWS Oregon region, and it's not available for customer installation. That's the application. However, you can install on-premises load generators in your company's environment or your company's cloud provider platform. So the application itself, it's hosted by Micro Focus, but you have the ability to host your own load generators in your own environment.
Perfect. I hope this is answer enough for it. So then there was a question. I'm not sure. Here's someone coming in. Is Joseph Huang. I'm not sure if you would like to ask the question directly, so we can try to unmute you as well. So you should be now unmuted. So maybe if you would like to ask a question directly to Jim, you are now in the position to do so.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So I'm in a dynamic environment where the code is going to production just about daily. And how do you change? How do you keep up with, like, you know, the endpoint changes and dynamic payload, or, you know, request payload change constantly through like various builds throughout the day?
Yeah, I think I would probably approach that. I would, you know, go back to the LoadRunner Developer type of approach where the people that are making those changes, that are constantly happening, would be able to create tests in LoadRunner Developer to test the changes, or you know, create a new test that now tests the way the application currently performs, and then that would be able to be plugged into the build process, so that as the build occurs, the test itself would be executed to make sure that you know, those tests get executed as part of the standard build process. So each time there's a change, each time there's a build, there'd be a new test to go with that build. Does that help?
Is that? Yes, thank you. Would that version be available in Mac OS?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
LoadRunner Developer works. Yeah, LoadRunner Developer works across Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So whatever IDE you're using in any of those environments. Great. Thanks for the question.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I just check if we will have another question which were put into the box. I can see there was something about, can network virtualization be used for SAP Web or SAP GUI protocols?
So I can take this one. For the SAP GUI that can be executed behind the firewall with on-premise load generator. So with LoadRunner Cloud currently, we cannot apply the network virtualization on the on-premise load generators. For SAP Web, yeah, this is possible. You can apply network virtualization when you run SAP Web using the cloud load generators.
Okay, so at the moment, I think we have answered everything which was asked during the presentations. So I don't see any question here from the attendees. I don't see raising hands. So we are now already 5 minutes on over the top of the estimated time. In case that no one now has any more questions, I would first of all like to thank you, Jim, for your time and the great presentation, and as well you, Sharon, for making it happen to join this virtual user meeting, and of course every attendee for the time and that you could make it and join us today live. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send over the recorded version, on-demand version, with a separate email. You will get a link. This will come to you within the next couple of days. And yeah, just to make sure one more time, it's if you would like to get this chance to get into the raffle, please make sure you fill in the survey later on, and just directly after the closing, put in your business email. This is mandatory, and yeah, then good luck. Maybe you will win this gift card, and I hope everyone is now being best prepared for the upcoming festival season with Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Thank you all for attending. Time
Thank
is
you.
much appreciated.
Thank you, Jim, for a great presentation. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.